Hey everyone, so we do have some severe storms moving into Michigan. Here is the current situation. Now before I get into the radar, let's go over to the HRRR model, and this is the prediction for later this evening, closer to midnight. So I'm just looking here at around Grand Rapids, and this is the sounding. So what we're looking at here is a bunch of information on the right side that gives us insight into how strong these severe storms will be. Um, so there's the SB Cape, ML Cape, and MU Cape. And these values here are kind of modest values. Looking at this MU Cape, nothing crazy, but it is still something. So that's basically the energy, and I'd say it's more modest at this point, but it is something still to consider. Um, what's way more significant here is the wind shear. So you can see these values right here, the SRH values, and these are very strong values. And this is a wind shear at different elevations, so 0 to 1 kilometer, 0 to 3 kilometers, um, and these are quite high. So any storms that do develop along this line could definitely drop a tornado. Um, in addition, obviously, if you stepped outside today, you'll know it's quite humid. You can see that down here with the relative humidity at 87%, so very humid, especially for mid-April. So very humid conditions. And then the cap, and this is the final thing I'm looking at here, and that's these two values, the SBCIN, MLCIN. Um, these are not obviously optimal values, very low. So it might be difficult for storms to develop, but if they do, they could be intense. That's what that typically means. Now, if we go to the radar, you can see the storms have already developed, so that's not an issue. We know the storms have developed. They've broken through the layer and they are now intensifying rapidly. These storms intensified very fast, actually, if we go back in time. I guess I can't go back that far, but if you go back like 30 minutes, these were very small, like the storm by Holland, and they just kind of exploded. But these storms here are going to be weak. The question is the stuff over the lake and over across the lake, um, will it like retain its energy and intensity? The storms out ahead will stabilize the atmosphere and it could weaken conditions a bit. Um, and you can also tell that the storms over here have generally weakened over the past hour. There were way more warnings about an hour ago for twisters, and now there's very few. There's only one. It's becoming more of like a bow segment. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing. As we get closer to 11 o'clock in West Michigan, we're going to be seeing more of a bow structured system moving across the area as depicted by the future forecast radar, um, with embedded rotation within the line. As I described, the wind shear is still pretty high, so we could see kind of brief touchdowns along the line. But the biggest threat will be wind and hail and flooding rains with the wet ground. But tornadoes are definitely still possible based on the values I just described about the wind shear and the environment today and the past history of the system. Um, so definitely stay tuned. And I'll provide any updates later if anything urgent comes about.